Is this the great decoupling part 2, or is this another replay of what we saw just 3 weeks ago? If you guys remember, stock market crashed, Bitcoin rallied, and then what happened next was Bitcoin went down to $76,000. Are we going to see the same again, or is this time different? We'll have that conversation. Also, Donald Trump is back at it, telling Jerome Powell, don't be too late, Jerome. Be right on time, Jerome, and cut some rates. What are the markets saying with their price action and their money? And what does that mean for altcoins and Bitcoin as Bitcoin dominance reaches new highs day after day? Gold is absolutely crushing it. We're also going to talk about some trade setups. And then we're going to talk about two large banks that are looking to expand their crypto services. What is that going to mean for our industry? We'll have that conversation and much, much more on today's episode of Sin City Crypto. Let's go.
Hola! It's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to Sin City Crypto, home of the entertainment-focused cryptocurrency content. It's like old, boring, stale information, repackage it up in a fun, sexy way. You know what? There's been a lot of movement in Bitcoin over the weekend. We are seeing the rise and the resurgence, the reoccurrence of Bitcoin at 90,000, right?
Not quite.
It's almost here. I smell it.
Last time.
I smell it.
Last chance.
It's the last chance to buy Bitcoin under 90K. Today is the day, the last day of your life.
I was looking back on Thursday show. Thursday show was fun, man.
Oh, yeah? Good show.
Hope you guys had a great Easter. RIP to the Pope, as we learned the Pope passed away. I think it was today or yesterday. And, yesterday, I was like, Bitcoin loves Jesus. Jesus loves Bitcoin. Bitcoin was pumping yesterday to close the weekend out. And so we saw a pump this morning. And the first thing I did was look at the stock market. Well, actually, the first thing I did was check my portfolio. Altcoins didn't really move. I was like, shit. Okay. Then I look at the stock market. I'm like, the stock market's dumping. And then I remember 3 weeks ago, same situation. Stock market dumped. Bitcoin absolutely smacked. And we were sitting here saying the decoupling. And then, Bitcoin fell pretty dramatically. And we were like, I guess that didn't happen. So this time, is it any different? Let's talk about it. So where's the stock market today? Also, real quick, shout out to Muhammad. $20 said making it up. There's a story behind that I refuse to share. But Muhammad, we appreciate you. You're a man of your word. Thank you for all your support. Appreciate you, my friend. All right. You think if we could do a $0 super chat, Muhammad would do it? Probably. Let's take a look at the stock market. Dow Jones down 1,100 points, 3%. S&P down 3.1%. And the NASDAQ down 3.5%, minus 561 points.
We did see this last week, too, where the index funds sold off. Bitcoin did not, or choose the week prior. Basically 10 days ago, the same crap happened. We had a sell-off. Bitcoin held strong. And then we had a big pullback in Bitcoin. So I'll be very cautious at this point. I'd be very, very weary of long positions. There you go.
I actually had that breakdown. But I want to show, actually, let's take a look at that breakdown. So the little circled area is what Rob and I are referring to. And Rob, this was actually almost a month ago. Well, the specific case I'm speaking of. So and let me get rid of this. So the line is your NASDAQ and the candles are Bitcoin. And you see the NASDAQ here, the Wednesday, the 26th, the NASDAQ fell from 19,000 points to the next day down to 18,500 points. So pretty big drawdown. And what did Bitcoin do? In that time frame, Bitcoin rallied around 15%. Okay? Everything was going down. NASDAQ continued to fall. So from the point that Bitcoin rallied to the point the NASDAQ fell, the NASDAQ, so Bitcoin was up 20%. The NASDAQ was down 12%. So a pretty big decoupling, and we were sitting here having a conversation like, is this it? Is this where Bitcoin decouples? And well, the story tells the rest. Let me get rid of NASDAQ. And you can see here what BTC did after reaching a high of around $94,900. We saw Bitcoin fall from its high to its low around 20%. And then Bitcoin kind of chopped sideways, grinded up a little bit, and then came into the same versus head and shoulders, which played out, but we're seeing a pullback now back down to the neckline, essentially. And so you think this is going to be the same exact replay of what we saw just 3-4 weeks ago, Rob? Or do you think gold running is kind of a marker for Bitcoin rallying next?
You can't get away from overall macro trends with crypto at the moment, right? Why do we cover the Fed? Why do we cover the Fed rate meetings? Why do we endlessly discuss rate cuts and, increasing the interest rates? Money printer. Why are we always talking about that? Because we know that
because it's so fun.
The economy and the overall picture is that when the economy rallies, when there's more money sloshing around in the economy, it goes over to crypto. The same happens on the way down too. And so if the economy is struggling, if the index funds, which is the best measure of the economy, I guess, from at least an investor standpoint, is on the downswing, then you know that crypto is going to follow it. So I don't look at singular days and say like, hey, this is an indictment of what's expected to happen, because, they do not move and sidestep day by day, but an overall trend, when you zoom out, economy goes down, crypto does not do well. Economy goes up, crypto does well. And so we started the week off down 3%, not looking good. Just be a little weary. Now we got to bounce back in NASDAQ, S&P 500, things starts to look positive. But at that point, I think, we can sit here and start talking about, comfortably getting over 90K. I think that we will get there. Will it be this week or next week? If the index funds hold up, if we get some green days and we don't have any of these big scare sell-off tariff headline news, I think we'll be fine, dude. I think we'll be back up to 90K. That's the general direction. I think the supply and demand dynamics of Bitcoin, also with, the fact that the U.S. is probably buying or in a position to buy or putting the framework to buy large amounts of Bitcoin. We're on the precipice of the breakout.
I challenge you to spell precipice. Would you like me to use it in a sentence? Can I tell you a story about the one time I was in a spelling bee and I lost?
No.
Yeah. I blame my dad. So my dad came. Man was always working, yeah. And so he never had time to come to any of my stuff. And well, he came to my spelling bee one time and he was sitting in there and I was getting all the words right. And then I got the word rigorous. And he stepped out to smoke a cigarette. And as he stepped out, I misspelled the word and I lost.
Okay.
Great story. So, true story. So, this was an article here by thecoinrepublic.com. Decoding early signs of renewed interest in BTC. The accumulation trend score showed buying pressure behind Bitcoin was starting to build at the current levels, which was around $84,000 to $85,000. Lag between global money supply and Bitcoin, exactly like September of 2024, is what we're seeing, and that's before Bitcoin went up 90%. The accumulation activity showed moderate signs while indicating investor entrance after markets experienced stagnancy, according to this analysis score. And this was posted by Ali Charts. This is a metric from Glassnode. An accumulation score of 0.42 indicates that potential institutions alongside large holders may still possess bullish intentions regarding Bitcoin price recovery. And then we had this. So this is BTC on the 4-hour. We broke an important trend line. But this 88.5K level, man, even when you look on the daily, right? And I'll just drop a horizontal here. You can see the lot really going back to the middle of March wick, reject, wick, reject, wick, reject, wick, reject, and looks like wick, reject. 88.5K is a thorn in the side of Bitcoin's butt. And so are we going to see another sell-off? So the last time Bitcoin touched on a wick, we saw a drawdown of around 7.5%. And then this was back on the 2nd of April. Bitcoin had a small relief rally, but ultimately it fell 13%. So what are we going to see from BTC now? If I go back to my 4-hour chart, again, this trend line going back to Monday, March 24th, we've officially broken above it. And we expect now with current price action, seeing no momentum back to the upside, we do expect a retest, or we want to see a retest of this trend line here, which puts us at, depending on when we get it, around, I think it was 85 to 85.2. And so we want to see a strong bounce here. This would be a level I'd be eyeing for a potential long. Right now, I would not be trading Bitcoin. Obviously, the long play is over for now. So we look for the next move. And I don't think it's worth it to short Bitcoin now. If 85 fails, then I'll be more than happy to enter a Bitcoin short on a retest on the way up, failure, and then bring that thing down to around 83.3, where you can see Bitcoin has really held strong, going all the way back to the 13th of April, as we've seen multiple bounces off this 83.3K level. If we lose that, 80 to 82K should hold. And if we lose that, we're probably going back down to 76, maybe even putting a lower high at around 71,000. I don't see that happening. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. But again, we're at a very tumultuous time in government, in the markets, constant back and forth between Trump and other economies. So I'm not going to get into all of that, but you guys already know. And, obviously the attacks on Jerome Powell. So there's a lot of discussion on the uncertainty at the White House. But I think the silver lining here is once that uncertainty is gone, and I think if we look at it as a whole, right now, the U.S., let's just say they're in a trade war with, let's just say 80 countries, okay? The biggest one is China. If he lands a deal with China, the rest will not even matter, even if it's the Europe or India or whatever. Because once we lock in a deal with China, I think that's the biggest wild card here because we import a lot of our goods from China, especially rare earth metals. So I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But once we get clarity from that, I think it's a straight shot for BTC. Before I get Rob's opinion, I do want to say big thank you to today's channel sponsor. Today's show is brought to you by Stake.us. They came out with a new game. It is rock, paper, scissors. And so I was debating on whether I should try to get my mortgage payment paid with a rock, paper, scissors game. Either way, if you're in a social casino, Stake.us has you covered. Click the link in the description and join Stake.us with our link. You'll get free stuff. Also, I don't know, maybe you drive a 4-cylinder car. You get a free tank of gas every single month just by logging in every day and collecting your free $1 in Stake cash. So big shout out to Stake for bringing you today's show. So I guess my question is, Rob, do you share the same sentiment I do that if we get the deal with China, and I think that kind of is put in the back burner, I think everything else falls into place. Now investors can, all that capital that's on the sideline, they can reallocate it into.
It's not a question of if, it's a question of when, right? The 240% tariff on China currently, or whatever the number is at
285 now.
They're like 2.5 million.
This went up 5%.
Like, Donald Trump just has raised the tariff to $8 billion percent. It's like, it's foolish at this point. Yeah. And basically what you're doing is you're pausing all trade, right? Unless it's something that is at a dire need that somebody's okay paying 3 times the markup price. Because I mean, think about it. If you're buying a car and it's $20,000 from China, it is now $60,000.
That's not practical.
From 20,000 to 55 to 60,000. It's crazy. Basically,
doesn't Mercedes come from China?
Yeah.
Are you worried?
And so there's basically a trade embargo going on. That's what we're seeing.
It's a trade war. Let's just call it. It's a trade war.
Trade war, trade embargo. Basically, trading is halted. And so over 20% of imports for the United States come from China. And it being such a integral part of our economy, also as part of just even American-made products. American-made products, a lot of the time, have components that are sourced from China as well. So
that's the problem.
What's going to happen is it's just unsustainable. And
China's like that pit stop.
A pit stop?
Well, you can say it's made here, but let's just face it. Like, I don't think there's one car, maybe like Toyotas, but it's like even made in the USA, some parts are made and assembled in China and other countries.
I don't know if they're made and assembled there, but they source parts from there, right? If you're making something that has gears in there, you might order the gears.
Can you imagine going to a car and trying to buy? But do you want an engine that was assembled in China or in the US? If the one assembled in China is going to be an extra $200.
So we're gonna eventually come to a point where those tariffs are gonna get removed, or at least come down to a level that's reasonable.
I think they'll get removed.
Yeah, I think they'll.
It's who's gonna blink first.
But here's the thing: you do have next year is going to be an election year for the midterms.
The midterms, yeah.
And so you're not gonna see a Donald Trump that's gonna be okay giving power back to the Democrats, losing seats. And we know if the tariffs are in the spot that they are in now, trade is halted between our largest trade partner, and the economy is seeing some kind of inflation or supply and demand issues, and it's a strain on the economy, then at that point, it's going to be hard for Republicans to come back and win seats. People are going to be fed up. And so at some point, we're going to change. We're going to reverse course. And especially before,
that's what happens.
Especially before the next coming election. And they start campaigning at the beginning of the year. So
you'll start seeing ads by the end of this year.
Yeah. So I would say January, February, you'll start to see ads next year. And so you got less than a calendar year coming around. So you got about 8 months before you start seeing the commercials, and the Democrats are going to start hammering hard. Like, hey, the price of electronics, your price of cars are more expensive. Look at this. Look what Trump did. Look what Trump did. Look what the Republicans did. And so I don't think that Trump's going to let the Democrats use that as ammunition and lose seats, because that's what will happen. I have very little doubt if we stay the course with these tariffs and we completely block all trade from China, that Republicans are going to lose a lot of seats in the House and Senate, right?
If that's happening.
So they're going to pivot.
The
question is when.
I want to give a shout out to BitLab Academy. I saw they redirected their show here. So if you're from the BitLab Academy, welcome. Also, shout out to Mike Rochburns, said, Orange Chicken is American. We got him. US&A. Amen to that. I forgot what I was going to say, damn it. I had something so good brewing in my brain. Okay, we talked about that. So gold is what a lot of people point to and say digital gold's moving, Bitcoin lags. Gold has been on an absolute tear. It is the best performing asset since the beginning of the year. And this thing started... Oh, this is the daily. This thing started, so January 1st, it was at $2,600, and it's at $3,400. Now, that might not sound like a big move to us crypto native folk.
Yeah, that's a lot, man.
But that is a massive move for gold. And so I think this is another... See, investors, especially Wall Street, look at things like, they call them markers, right? Markers of the economy, markers of what the government's going to do, markers of what the Fed is going to do. And gold is a marker for people that are trying to figure out, should I have money in equities? Is it a risk-on market or a risk-off market? And so if they're seeing globally that everyone's buying gold and gold's going up, then they're kind of like, okay, well, something must be brewing. That's a negative marker for the economy. And so we're hearing talks of recession. We're hearing talks of stagflation. So there's, again, it's that word is uncertainty. And so here's what I think is going to happen. Donald Trump is not going to come out and say, you know what, I was wrong. We're going to backtrack on these tariffs. We're going to take a new approach. He's got too much ego for that. What I think is going to happen is he's going to fire one of two people. He's going to fire Howard Lutnick, or he's going to fire Peter Navarro. He fires one of them, makes him the scapegoat, said, I was steered the wrong way. I'm bringing someone new in. We're going to reevaluate the tariff plan. That saves face. It saves him from the potential Democrat takeover that Rob mentioned in 2026. Now, what does that relate to crypto?
The tariffs are his idea. The tariffs, him slamming those percentages aren't somebody else's. He's not going to blame that on somebody else.
Yes, he is.
No.
If he wants to backtrack, you think he's going to backtrack on his own?
No, I think what I think is going to happen, he's going to say, I made a deal. I made a deal with China. They removed all their tariffs. There's no reciprocal tariffs now. They're at 0% tariffs for American-made products. I win. Look what I did. Now we came to a deal. No more tariffs at the moment. That's what's going to happen.
That's it.
But he's not going to fire somebody and then blame them for the tariffs. It's his thing. Like he campaigned on it. He literally said tariffs is the most beautiful word in the English dictionary. Like he actually said that. I would just say that like eventually they're going to cut a deal, right? We're seeing it with European nations. We're seeing it with, he says all the time, I've been picking up the phone. I've talked to 50 different nations. We're all going to remove tariffs. That's what's going to happen with China. Eventually, China's going to have to come to the table because China, their economy they're an industrial economy where they export, particularly to the U.S. And so they're taking a big punch. They're taking some big hits. And so China doesn't want tariffs. Now, they're not going to be no punk. They're not going to sit back and be like, and bow down to Donald Trump. No, they're a very large economy. So they're not scared of Donald Trump. They're okay taking some L's on the economy for the time being. But at some point, Donald Trump's going to want to make a deal. China's going to want to make a deal. And they're going to get to the table and be like, all right, you know what? China's going to say, no tariffs on our end or whatever it is. And then we'll move forward.
I don't know. I think someone becomes a scapegoat. I really do. Because if this thing goes, if
you think that Donald Trump is going to blame his tariffs on somebody else,
I'm not saying he's going to blame the tariffs, but he's going to say, I was steered the wrong way, yada, yada. I don't know. That's just what I think.
There's no way. I've never heard Donald Trump say, I've been steered the wrong way. He's always said, I did this, me, all his good, and then, right?
And what happens when shit's bad?
But he just blames somebody else, right? He blames the...
What I'm saying. That's what I said.
But the terrorist is him. That's what I'm saying. He's not going to blame the terrorist on somebody else.
Okay. This is not related to crypto, so I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. My whole thing is the guy's been getting counsel from a lot of people. And so there's rumors that between Howard Lutnick and Peter Navarro, they're the guys really steering the tariff ship. Obviously, they're not going to do anything that Trump doesn't approve on, but I don't know. We'll see. Interesting. At the end of the day, certainty is what we're looking for. We see certainty, and we see the markets. Also, shout out to Kelly. Kellen, what's up, Kelly? How you doing, brother? Got to bring him on the show again. I didn't mention gold. Take a look at this. When I saw this, it reminded me of what happened in the 70s where people were forced to give up their gold. And I think this is just a polite way to do so, but this is a vending machine, or not a vending machine, but a machine in China that allows people to put in their gold. It melts it, tests the purity, and gives them fiat currency. We know China's been buying massive amounts of gold. I think they added an extra, how many tons did they add? I don't know. It was a large amount. And so part of the reason why gold's going up. But they're trying to get people to turn over hard commodities, precious metals for fiat currency. And so what I'm trying to say, don't give up your Bitcoin. Don't be an idiot that sells to convert it to a currency that they print out of thin air. Speaking of currency printing, this was Donald Trump on Truth Social going at it with Jerome Powell yet again. Preemptive cuts in interest rates are being called for by many, with energy costs way down, food prices substantially lower, and most other things trending down. There's virtually no inflation, with these costs trending so nicely downward. Just what I predicted they would do. There can almost be no inflation, but there can be a slowing of the economy unless Mr. Too Late, a major loser, lowers interest rates. Now, Europe has already lowered 7 times. Powell has always been too late, except when it came to the election period, when he lowered in order to help sleepy Joe Biden. Well, did the markets here? No, it's still 86% that we're going to get a nothing burger.
Mr. Loser.
You got any comments? Mr. Too Late.
Mr. Too Late.
Major loser. He's a huge loser. I don't know. You have any comment on this? Like a lot of people are saying the Fed needs to cut rates before we can even talk about all-time highs.
You remember we had a conversation. I was like, hey, if Donald Trump wanted to cut rates, he wouldn't do it through
just throw a tantrum on something.
He wouldn't do it through crashing the economy. I thought that was the dumbest idea ever, in my opinion. Donald Trump is purposely crashing the economy so that way Jerome Powell can cut rates. No. If Trump wants Mr.
Loser.
Too Late and Major Loser to cut rates, he's just gonna
do this.
Yes, exactly.
He's gonna do this.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, but to the point of, and I don't want this to be a redundant question, but you have a lot of people saying that we can't even think about new all-time highs until Jerome Powell does pivot. Are you in that camp?
I mean, it's not. I don't say we can't, but I think over time, let's just say we don't cut rates for a year, we're gonna still break a new all-time high.
Okay, so you don't think it all hinges on?
No, but it definitely will speed up the process. And so if we cut rates, then I think you do see Bitcoin breaking out a lot sooner than later. If we don't get any rate cuts, say by the end of the year for some reason, we'll still get an all-time high, but it'll be at the tail end, I think. What do you think? I mean, we're not far off all-time high. I mean, all-time high was 108, right?
109, yeah.
Yeah, 108, 109. And so it wasn't far off. We're not far away from there. And it wasn't that long ago we were at all-time highs. We haven't collapsed. It's not like we're down to like 20,000 or something. We're like looking back in hindsight, like, wow, one day we'll get back out there. And we're pretty damn close. So I think if you get a couple narratives, countries buying, things like that, sure.
And I agree with Rob. And this is a way earlier point, but the point he mentioned about Trump not letting the other party, take the majority back in the House and the Senate. And so if August comes around and the Senate and everyone comes back from their holiday or their summer break, if the markets are still down, expect a pivot or expect something. And so I guess that's a positive you can look at. You got going for it. And so at the end of the day, what got Trump elected, people felt it at the grocery store, at the gas station. And if people are feeling it in their portfolios and their investments, well, guess what? They're going to vote with that too. And so just keep that in mind. With that being said, let's cover what Michael Saylor did over the weekend. Take a guess what Michael Saylor did, Robin.
He sold Bitcoin.
No. He bought Bitcoin. How much? Well, another 6,556 of them at a $555.8 million at $84,785 per Bitcoin. Now holding 538,200 Bitcoin acquired for $36.47 billion. A friend of mine who's sitting on a lot of Bitcoin, it's actually my cousin, he texted me on Saturday or Friday. He said, what's the likelihood of Saylor having to, or MicroStrategy having to sell or get liquidated on their Bitcoin? Like, what's that price? I said, buddy, that price is at a level of Bitcoin I don't think ever gets to again.
I think the misconception with that is I think that people think that the company will go under and they'll have to sell all their Bitcoin. I think that if they do find themselves in a position, they have to borrow, or come up with some kind of cash or margin call, whatever it is. They're not leveraging all their Bitcoin. And so could we find ourselves in a situation where Bitcoin's price tanks in the future and the MicroStrategy stock essentially plummets? We know that it moves with Bitcoin price. And we find ourselves in a situation where they're forced to sell. And I don't think it's that crazy. They're not going to sell they're not going to sell 500,000 Bitcoin. I think that they'll probably, if they have to sell a few $1 billion worth, which will be,
And you know what'll happen OTC?
Yeah, and so I don't, even in that scenario, I don't think it's that bad. Like I don't think it's that crazy. Now, I know the company's strategy is to not sell any Bitcoin and to forever accumulate, but at some point you might have to sell. It's not that crazy of an idea, right? You're talking about a company with shareholders and a stock, and they're borrowing money and they got loans and margin calls. Like if they sell, it's cool, man. It's not the end of the world, bro. The same way it's not, the price doesn't rally every time he buys $500 million worth of Bitcoin.
It did this time.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying? Like it's not these headlines don't move the needle.
In fact, usually when he buys, we go down.
And I think that if they sell, like sure, it might kind of spook the markets. That day, it might be the headline news for that day or that week or whatever it is. But then after that, it'll be off to the next thing, right? Yeah. Now we did see an unwinding of all the Bitcoin. I mean that would be pretty traumatic, and that's cause for a great concern when it comes to the short term price. But I don't see that happening. I mean, a lot of times you never see things. This is what you don't expect will happen a lot of times. But
they're called black swan events, my friend. I saw a comment from Random Vid said, I don't like institutions buying this much Bitcoin. I honestly don't either. But it's a free market. So what are you going to do? Buy as much as you can.
Would you rather have the exchanges hold it? Would you rather have a country hold it? Would you rather
have the people hold it? But obviously,
what do the people do? The people see
people are stupid.
People are like, oh, there's the COVID. Oh my God, I gotta sell all my my Bitcoin. Yeah. Oh no, this exchange winner, I gotta sell everything. Oh man, like you know what? I'd rather have somebody that's gonna buy and hold it and never sell it than to have it in the hands of retail. Large swaths of Bitcoin. And I think if you equally distribute it, right? If let's just say you had 10% of Bitcoin supply in government's hands, they buy and hold it. 10% institutions like MicroStrategy and other large companies. Then you got in like venture capital or whatever, and then retail and retirement, like that's and then you got 30% that's gone and lost forever. Why not? Why not get a nice distribution? I'll tell you what I don't want. I don't want 100% retail owning that thing, because retail, they're retarded. They sell and buy at the wrong times. The psychology of the market is effed up, man. I mean, it's not. We always talk about the psychology of the trader in the market. That's like time in and time out. It's just proven, man. The masses move at the wrong time.
Yeah,
it's just the reality of it. And so I'd rather not have all the Bitcoin in their hands. I don't. Spread it out. At the same time, I don't want it all in the government's hands. I don't want it all in the institution's hands. But spread it out. It's so good. I'm glad.
We got breaking news. Ashley wears socks and shoes.
Wow.
Yeah. Robin.
Okay, boss.
You know what I was looking at, dude? Before we get into the markets, we have 400 people watching, and we don't even have 80 likes.
What? I need to
terrible.
Bring back that like sign.
I know exactly where it is. You want me to go get it?
No.
Okay. Please like the video, guys. It takes you 2 seconds and it helps. So I don't think people.
I call on you to smash the thumbs up button.
Viva Las Vegas.
If you hold this until you hit it.
Okay. Please help. Please send help. Rob, let's take a look at the markets.
All right. So taking a look, you got Bitcoin flirting with 87,000. And so.
Tease, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Hate tease.
And, we traded briefly above 88,000 this morning. And then taking a look at the 1 week, very nice, healthy movement here. Hello. And then kind of still sideways chop here with a little pullback earlier in the month. Now, take a look at the altcoins. We got stacks up 12%. This is something we haven't seen move in quite some times. So,
Rob, do you think stacks? Sorry to cut you off.
No, good.
Actually, I'm not sorry to cut you off. You do it all the time to me.
Okay.
But do you think this is you see this as a resurgence of stacks? There is a lot of speculation and hype around Bitcoin DeFi. We are going to get a Cardano demo at the Bitcoin conference. ICP said they're rolling something out with Bitcoin DeFi. They already have chain key technology or chain key fusion. And so stacks, we're seeing a resurgence in stacks. What's the market cap? $1 billion. You think this is worth a shot? With all the hype around Bitcoin DeFi with the conference coming up, you think this could be the leading altcoin for the next, I don't know, 3 to 4 weeks?
You know, when Stacks gets moving, it does pretty well. You know, it's really kind of consolidated for quite some time. You know, you look at the 1-year chart and it's just down to the right. Yeah. It's a long-term consolidation. But when you look at the all-time chart, you see that it has some big moves. And the last one was last year. You know, we went from 50 cents all the way up to almost $4. So we had a 7x from its 2023 kind of consolidation. I mean, we did see lows as low as 20 cents, but it went from 50 cents to over $3. And then it sold off and bounced back still to $2.60. So we've seen very, very strong performance out of the upward price action of Stacks. And now we're seeing a clear reversal. Now, could it be something that like similar to what we had here in 2023, where it went from 20 cents, went up to $1, and then it sold down to 60 cents, briefly rallied back up to 70, and then sold off for another few months? That could happen, but I would expect another rally here sometime soon from Stacks or continuation. So I think this is still a very, 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 very good entry point on Stacks. If you believe in the project, I would get a hold of that. Also, CASP was up as well.
Before you move on from Stacks, also shout out to Blockchain Basement. I saw them in here as well. So this is the Stacks chart on the daily, and what you're seeing forming now with this wick is a cup and handle pattern on the daily. So big time frame cup and handle pattern. And so if this plays out, expect a little bit of a downtrending channel to form this handle. Now, the question then becomes, well, where does it stop? I guess the first area would be your 236. That's 67.9 cents. But I think the more likely is this 50% retracement level, maybe even the golden pocket sitting in between 59.3 and 59.9 cents. I'd be eyeing 60 to 62.5 cents for a potential bounce if this pattern plays out. Now, if Stacks continues to rally and just has, just continues the trend it's been on, really Stacks since breaking out of this bull flag pattern, Stacks has been up almost 30%. So this move could continue, but it looks like it's getting stopped out right around 72.8 cents. Again, look for a potential cup and handle formation on Stacks and look to enter along on the breakout of this handle. You want to wait for a positive retest of the breakout before you enter along. So this is something that I'm going to be keeping my eye on. If we throw on Market Cipher B,
and after that,
this was a
take a peek at Caspa afterwards.
Yeah,
man, like I know a lot of people have been waiting on pins and needles for this thing to finally break out. We were calling at 5 cents was what a good time to buy, and well, look at that, it's up to 8 cents now.
Look at so this is a great setup here on Market Cipher B. That's your anchor wave, and that little tiny nub is your trigger wave with the green dot. And look what price did. And I always like to do this to kind of back test in real time, I guess. So we get the green dot printed on the 19th of April. If you entered it on the very next open and you rode this thing up, 15% to where it currently is to its swing high, 20% rally for STX. And so shout out to Market Cipher, man. What a great... Honestly, if you pay $600 for this thing, which if you use a certain code, you get a 40% discount, you would have made your money back 10 times over. We hit actually, since we're speaking of trades, we hit a few trades with Market Cipher B with that exact strategy. This was the first one. This was a 37% Floki scalp. I think we made, it was like $370. We made this in, I think it was like, I don't know, like 2-3 hours. We also entered and exited an HBAR long using the same anchor trigger wave strategy. Or excuse me, HBAR was not anchor trigger wave. HBAR was support and resistance, just a simple S&R trade. But the other one that was the anchor trigger wave was the Chainlink trade. That was another $188. So that was all in one day. It was a $750 day. Not too bad. think that covered one microphone Robin wanted. And so I'm trying here, guys. Rocco, I'm trying. Make sure this man doesn't empty our entire bank account. And so we posted all these in our Discord. So I'd highly recommend you go join our Discord and then click on this link to get VVIP access. It costs you literally nothing. You just got to create an account with Buy DeFi using our link and then deposit $100 of your own money to trade. And then you automatically get into the scalp, swing signals, market analysis, and of course our trades as well, as you can see on our Discord. And here it was. So this was Uniswap. We hit this trade as well, Anchor Trigger Wave. So yeah, we have a lot of fun in there, make some money. And so if you're not part of a Discord, join. That link is in the description of the video. And so, you know, Rob mentioned Kaspa. Now, Kaspa is the number 2 gainer on the day, up 8.5%, up 9% on the 7-day, still down close to 40% on the 90-day, sitting at a $2.18 billion market cap. And we can actually pull up a Kaspa chart. I got it right down here. So this was Kaspa, and let me make this bigger. So we had Kaspa in a falling wedge / channel, even this trend line going down, the red one. For me, when I trade breakouts of trend lines, I always wait for a retest, and we didn't quite get the retest. So we missed along here as I try to stay disciplined with my trading. But Kaspa's pushing higher. I mean, this level it's at now, if we can close above that 8.25 cent level, that would be massive. That would be massive. And then we're eyeing 10 to 12 cents. If we break 10 to 12 cents for Kaspa, I honestly think you're looking at all-time highs. And so Kaspa had a massive rally last year going into the beginning of the year, and it cooled off while everything else started to run. Well, guess what? When everything else is sideways, you might see a breakout in Kaspa. So those of you that have been holding Kas,
if Kaspa catches momentum at the same time that we see Bitcoin put in a new all-time high, it might be the best performing altcoin out of the top 100.
Yeah, that rubber band's been pulled back for 6 months now. And so, yeah.
If we see, say, like a 15-cent Kaspa prior to, you know, if it 2x from where it is now, we saw 15-cent Kaspa, and then, say, within that same 2 or 3 week window, Bitcoin shot up to 115, 120,000. I think that Kaspa just catapults and gets up to that 50 cent, 60, 70 cent range. I don't think that a lot of it's gonna. I don't think there's much stopping that thing, man. And maybe that also comes off the back of, you know, smart contracts and, you know, maybe some DEXs and all kinds of fun stuff. So
I've always said, you know, Kaspa, you got to give it time. And so if you're patient with Kaspa, it'll make you money. But a lot of people just don't like the P word, that P word, which is patience. And then looks like I had this was a perfect retest. Look at that. The symmetrical triangle breakout. Also more of, I guess you can call it a bullish pennant. Breakout to the upside, and then this mini cup and handle on the 1 hour. But yeah, I mean, Kaspa looks great again. We need to close above 8.25 cents. If we do, I'd be looking at seeing what price does at 10 to 11 cents. Maybe look for a short if you're looking to scalp. And then if we don't, though, 12 cents, and then it's really, we're talking 15 to 20 cent all-time highs pretty much. So I don't think you weren't done with the markets, were you?
I just kind of looked at the top 2 there. So if you just...
Anything surprising you?
I mean, you got Decentraland. Now, Decentraland's up 10% on the week.
Good thing we gave it an A grade, right, Rob?
You know? Interesting. I think this might...
Why is that interesting?
I think it's a signaling that the gaming sector perhaps is ready to pop off, right? I'm not seeing anything else here in the gaming sector in the top 100 right now. As far as...
You mean metaverse?
No, I mean, it is metaverse, yes, but I think it's more of a gaming play, right? In my opinion.
I would argue it's more. I'm not saying it doesn't have a gaming narrative, but I
don't really believe in. I think metaverse was gaming, right? I mean, it was a game. There wasn't like a campaign and a versus mode, but it's as much a game as Minecraft was, right? Minecraft, you build and you create an ecosystem, a little world. You kind of play around in there. It's a sandbox, right? Decentraland was essentially that. And so the idea that Decentraland, if you've ever looked at it, go watch a YouTube video on Decentraland. if you thought that was a place that everyone was going to hang out at,
Dude, JP Morgan build a bank branch in there, bro.
Yeah. So if you think that was actually going to happen, then you're disconnected with what people are actually in tune with and want to use. And I've always said that the metaverse, in the style that they were advertising it, was not here yet. This immersive world where you just put on a headset or something and you just hang out all day long in this make-believe land. And sure, maybe that'll happen. I do think that metaverse will be a thing eventually. I just don't think the tech.
For the sake of Facebook, it better be.
Yeah. It'll get there. It'll get there. It'll be the similar idea. The way I look at it is the same way that AI was always a buzzword, right? It's not like ChatGPT came out and everyone was like, "There's this thing called artificial intelligence. It's just like a computer brain." And it's smart. Like, no, we already knew that AI was a thing. People talked about AI constantly. They were like, hey, artificial intelligence, it's a thing. It's going to be the future, blah, blah, blah. But then what ended up happening was then eventually you got a product where it stood out. And people were like, wow, this is too good to be true. This is good to be true. Then you use it, you're like, no, it's just pretty badass. Like, it's not even too good to be true. It is actual fact. This thing is revolutionary. There will be the same change in metaverse. And the reality is that
I like that. I like that analysis.
And people will eventually say,
that's a good analogy. I think
people will say like metaverse, like, I don't want to hang out in the metaverse. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, no. But eventually there's going to be some next platform, just like
there's going to be a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Whether that's an AR or VR.
Yeah. You look at social media, it's basically, it's a social media medium, right? And in the past, the social media mediums were like MySpace. That was a big breakthrough. People were like, wow, like, hey, like, you know what? I got my own, basically my own website that I have tailored for me with all of my own personal information and my photos. And then in came Facebook, which was just a better version of that. I think what you're going to have is the same thing. You have a breakthrough in the metaverse and people are going to gravitate and play something. And then there'll be a better iteration of it. So maybe Meta comes out with it, and then all of a sudden Google comes out with one, and
Apple,
yeah, all there ends up being better than the other ones. But that's what's going to happen. The software and the tech's just not here yet. It's just how it is, and maybe it isn't a headset. Maybe it's an optical VR that
maybe it's Neuralink.
Honestly, it could very well be, and it doesn't have to be something that's like embedded in your brain. I mean, could have something where it's just like hey, it's a little magnet or something you put on the side of your head or something. Maybe some button. Maybe it's an augmented reality that sits in your room. Almost like a projector, right? Like, hey, you put this on the floor and it projects a room. I saw that in Star Wars a couple times. But I don't know. I wouldn't write off metaverse, but right now, Decentraland, I think, is an indication of a potential rally out of the gaming sector. I think that it represents a lot of what gaming stands for, and so I don't know. At some point, gaming is going to break out. I have zero doubt in that. So,
I see a war is brewing. What kind of hot sauce do you put on your eggs? I personally put Tapatio. Robin?
You got to go Tabasco, particularly the green Tabasco is
Chile Verde?
Yeah, that one is super good on eggs, bro.
Interesting. Ashley, I did not steal your idea. It's in honor of you, actually, so you're welcome. But we're curious. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin or crypto. Jesse Pollock from Base might coin it, right? But we're not. We're just very curious. I'm also very curious to get your thoughts on this. But before I get your thoughts on this, let me give my thoughts on that. That which is our other sponsor of today's show, Cam's Blue Wire Technology. If you run a business and you want to maximize your networking, IT, and more importantly, I would say cybersecurity, as the age of AI and technology continues to grow, you're going to want to visit BlueWireTech.com. They are the leader. They're the ones that we've been using for the last 3 years. So big shout out to them, our longest tenured sponsor. There's a link in the description. Also visit BlueWireTech.com for more information. Let's start here. Banks eye U.S. crypto expansion amid market interests. Now, which banks? Two of them, Deutsche Bank and Standard Chartered, are reportedly exploring ways to expand their cryptocurrency operations into the United States. The potential entry of these banks into the U.S. crypto market may enhance institutional interest and credibility among regulatory shifts. Now, Deutsche Bank, massive, the 7th or 9th largest bank in Europe, $1.43 trillion in assets. Standard Chartered, more of a forward-looking, technologically advanced bank that looks for emerging markets. They have over 80,000 employees globally. They're based out of the UK. And so although it may not be a JP Morgan Chase or a Citi, Deutsche Bank is pretty massive. And so these guys are looking to expand into crypto. I guess my question, Rob, is what comes out of it? Like, what's more important that comes out of it? Is it legitimacy of the market? Is it potentially bringing users? Or is it resources and technology in pushing our space forward into the new era of finance?
It's inevitability, right? If you believe that crypto has staying power, and you also believe that fiat is essentially inflating away value, and the option there of crypto is always going to appeal to people, right? You could find yourselves in a scenario where we always have fiat, where we always have government issued currency, and that never goes away. And at the same time, you also have a privatized money. And so, you can have NASA and also have commercial space exploration, right? You can say, hey, we want the commercial sector to take over, launching satellites and things of that nature. Because prior to SpaceX and a handful of other companies, it was all governments that launched satellites. Now it's done by companies. And maybe we live in a world where, you have a government issued fiat, and then the customer essentially chooses, how do I want to transact in my life? We're not too far off of there right now, right? You can purchase whichever one you want. I think that the big disconnect is that there is a lack of interoperability between the traditional finance institutions like banks and also crypto. And I think that is going to eventually erode. And I think that we will have every bank offering both fiat services and crypto services. And I think that the forward-looking progressive banks, the ones that aren't the big...
What's the time frame on that, Rob? Less than 5 years?
Yeah. I think less than 5 years, every bank has exposure to it. I think that some lean into it a little heavier. And I think the ones that lean into crypto heavier are going to have more success. And it is going to accelerate the adoption of other banks. No different than what we saw with the ETFs, right? ETF issuers, BlackRock starts to offers a Bitcoin ETF. And then lo and behold, everybody comes to the party. Everybody shows up, right? I think it's going to be the same. You get one or two big banks, and then everyone sees how much money they're making, how that business model is absolute genius, and then other banks are going to follow suit. I think it's impossible to subvert the incoming crypto and banking integration. It's literally impossible. All you can do is delay it.
And I think a stablecoin, at least in the U.S., I think the stablecoin bill is going to really light a fire under that. So, all right, I'm going to end the poll. Looks like majority of people said other, and then the second place was Tabasco. Interesting there. If you're not subscribed to our channel, make sure you subscribe to Sin City Crypto. And that'll do it for the show today. We got an XLM video coming for you later today in a couple of hours. And then the only thing we say is just join our Discord. Make sure you join our Discord. We're trying to grow that part of our community. And so hop in there. Doesn't cost you anything. Join the Discord and then navigate your way there. Say hello if you're in there. Give you guys a shout out. And that's all I got. Anything else?
That's it, baby.
Rocco. Whoop, 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 whoop. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We appreciate every single one of you. Happy first Monday after Easter. We look forward to bringing you back here tomorrow. Until then, my friends, peace.
Sin City, crypto, everybody know what we here for. Entertainment and info, gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in, for big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in then you win, we divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David, I split the game but they gave it. Name the coin that's your favorite, I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners, special shout out to the well members. Buy the dip, sell winners, ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors, they gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas, I laugh with a major grin.